King Cain. Okay, there we
Michael
go.
Rooker in the house.
Check.
Michael
Okay,
Rooker
we're
in
good.
the house.
We're good.
No, okay.
Dean, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. How
Dude,
goes?
it's good to see you. It's good to see you, for sure.
A pleasure. Good to see all of you
Yes,
as well. Thank
yes.
you very much. This is good little intimate group. I like it.
Oh, we're all for it. We're all for the intimacy. You have no idea. There was a smile. She smiled so hard when I was like,
Yeah.
he's on his way. He's on his way. She's like, yes.
Yeah.
Big smiles.
Just had a cup of coffee. I'm ready to go.
Oh, see? You're fired up. Okay,
I'm
well, let's
ready to
jump.
go.
Let's jump into it. Okay, so your illustrious career, phenomenal, right? Do you have a favorite role?
Well, I would have to say playing Clark Kent. Superman was my favorite role, bar none.
Yeah.
When you spend 4 years playing a role, that's...
It's you.
Yeah, it defined your career in that
course.
sense. It's a big deal. So I love that. I mean, some of my movie roles that I liked. I mean, there are certain movies that I really like the Broken Hearts Club is one of my favorite movies of all time, and the character I played in that one, Cole, was a particular favorite too. He was a good guy, but a bad guy, if you will.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
That was great. I loved playing opposite Denzel Washington, my favorite actor and the greatest actor I've ever worked with, and at a time. That was great fun. But without a doubt, my favorite role for me certainly was Clark Kent. Until an upcoming, I have one I really enjoyed playing in a movie called Little Angels that I wrote, produced, directed, starred in.
Hold up.
That's what the little angel hat is here, right there. That's our little thing. So it comes out. We've just finished it, so it starts. I'm going to start selling it to distributors.
Okay.
On the 28th of this month, we'll see who it's gonna.
I love
who's
that.
going to be the person, or whether it's going to be Disney or Warner's or Paramount. I don't know yet, but they're all Netflix. It might be something streaming. It might be in the theaters. We don't know.
Can you give us a log line?
Sure. It's basically the Mighty Ducks, if you will. It's kind of a professional or college football coach, former professional football player, like me, who says something politically incorrect, like me, and ends up in trouble for it, suspended for the year, and has to do community service and go to a sensitivity seminar, none of which he likes to do.
Right.
And what got him in trouble was that they put a girl kicker in to kick an extra point in a football game. When it was over, it was already won, and she missed it, and he said disparaging things. And so what they make him do for community service is go coach an under 13-year-old girls soccer team. Hell on earth, in a sense. Just organizing them, getting them all together to run from here to there. And it's a great thing. And he grows to love the girls. And then it's a wonderful story. It's about team and family and growth. And learning. You know, we all have to. So it's a lot of fun. And I'm really proud and excited because it's the first feature film that I directed. And it's turned out really well.
That is amazing. Okay, so to be like a stalwart of this industry and to just now tiptoe into the directorial side, like what gave you that impetus where you're like, this is the thing I want to do now?
Well, I've been directing actually for a long time.
Oh, well, snap.
Because I'm the son of a director. You know, my dad's a
true.
director, so I've been writing for him forever. I've written so much that's been uncredited, but I've seen on screen. So 5 or 6 of his films.
Oh, nice.
And he did everything from Young Guns, That Was Then, This Is Now, The Principal, so many great movies. Pure Country. Dad's very prolific, and I just it's funny. I was on a talk show. And there was this really beautiful girl next to me sitting there talking, and in between and I was talking football.
Right.
And then we went to commercial break, and in between, then she started talking football to me, and I was like,
"What you doing, girl?
Yeah, you don't know anything about football." And she was like, "Ba-ding, ba-ding, ba-ding, ba-ding." I was like, "Wow, I misjudged this beautiful petite little girl," and that was sort of the impetus for what I was writing. And I love the fish out of water story, and I certainly know what it's like to be a professional football player, and I also know what it's like to be an American to whom soccer wasn't such a big deal.
Right.
I've lived in Spain. I've had a home in Spain for 20 years. So if you know the Spanish, they love their soccer.
Their football.
Their football.
Yes.
You know, it's like, and that's one of my lines in the movie. It's like, look, we're in America. All right. Football is what we call this soccer, and this, So that was a big part of it, and not knowing the rules of soccer, which I didn't. And I learned a whole bunch during the shooting of this film, which was great fun for me to discover as the character.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I didn't know you couldn't call a timeout. Did you guys know you couldn't call a timeout in soccer? Well, of course, you must have played soccer.
Yeah.
But I didn't know. So of course I try to call a timeout, and
And
then
they're like, what?
nah,
What are you doing?
you can't do that.
You don't do that.
So it's that was the impetus of it, and it turned out to be. I wrote it 5 years ago, and it took
Wow.
this long to get it funded and made. And that process is crazy. In fact, anytime you make a movie, it's impossible. It's like the number of things that have to come together. You just go, I don't know how this possibly happened. And then once you decide you're making it and you're doing it, the number of moving parts and professionals you have to have and depend on is insane. And then all of that has to come together to this one living, breathing thing.
Right.
And I just did that. So I'm excited.
Make some noise. Make
Hey.
some noise. Make some noise. Now, obviously, I'm going to love talking to Dean, but I don't want it to just be me. So we do have a microphone over here. If you want to ask any questions, just line up. And
Bring
you can ask
it.
away.
Ask anything.
Okay, so when it comes to playing Clark, there are some residual things that I'm sure you hold on to from the show. What is your tip top that you learned being Clark Kent?
Well, I think this is important for anybody who plays Clark Kent, or even Supergirl in that sense, is you have to have a kindness, an empathy, and an earnestness. And I just am that. So
fact,
it was very,
true.
very comfortable for me to be able to play that character. I noticed right when I met the current Supergirl, what's her name?
Melissa.
Anybody know her? No.
Yeah.
Melissa,
It's her
because I
dad.
played her
I don't know
dad.
if you guys knew that.
And she has that in spades. And I was like, yep. Just talking to her for 2 minutes, I was like, yeah,
That's
no
awesome.
question about it. And I think that's really important. And so I learned that, with strength comes that. And if you're that strong, you don't have to posture up because you already know. You don't. And so it went the other way. And that's what I loved about Clark Kent. He's the most powerful being on Earth. Yet he wanted to use all of his powers and everything for
help
good
other
and for
people.
kindness and to
Yeah.
help. That's it.
Wow.
So I think that's something. That's why I still like to say truth, justice, and the American way,
Right.
even though the comic book has done away with it.
Changed it.
Yeah,
has.
I just love it because he was raised with small town American values by wonderful parents, and those values made him use everything for good. And I happen to believe in the American way, and I just, having traveled the world, I think we have the freest, most equitable society. It's not perfect.
Sure.
And we're always striving for a more perfect union, but that's why I still embrace it.
I like it.
Definitely.
Yes.
So at your table, we talked a little bit about Christmas.
Your book.
Yes. Yes, thank you. You remember. But we talked about Christmas being your favorite time. And so tell us a little bit about writing and creating the Lois and Clark Christmas episodes.
That was great. We called it Season's Greetings. No T in there.
That's
Greed.
right.
Greed is a big part of Christmas and the corporations and the things they do. And so I always love Christmas because it's time for families to get together. And, maybe you hadn't been together all the time. And everybody gets nostalgic and melancholy and thinks about the loved ones that they've had or people they've lost. It just comes to be a time of reflection. And I think there's something about that. And I love, like, my family would always be on top of each other. There'd be too many of us in one household, and there would be all kinds of drama.
Right.
Someone would get ticked off. Half the time it was me, and something would happen. And so, but that's where you sort of get down to brass tacks, and everybody sort of irons it out, and everything's good. At the same time, that's family, that's life.
Of course.
And it's like that madness of the life. Then you kind of go, but this is wonderful. So I asked them if I could write. That was the first episode I ever wrote for Lois and Clark.
Nice.
And you're sitting on set all day long. You're there. I would leave my house, typically be home 18 hours later, every day. And so you start at 5:30 in the morning on a Monday, and you finish at 7:30 in the morning on a Saturday morning. So we always call those Fraturdays, because it was Friday and a Saturday, always.
Lead right into it.
And then you're flipping around for the next Monday. So your life is on set. So I was like, I don't want to sit around in between shots. I can only work out so dang much in between. And you only get like 15 minutes here, 30 minutes there, 10 minutes there. So you never know. You can't depend on any time. So I was like, you know what? I want to use my brain at the same time. I literally, before I started doing Lois and Clark, I had a writing contract. I was hired to write a film because I'd been writing for my dad and writing. And so I got hired as a writer on a film. And I had to negotiate out of that when I was doing Lois and Clark because I didn't have the time and I couldn't do it. So I got out of that contract. But then I was on set just getting ready. I was like, man, I want to write an episode and see if they like it. So they made me go through the whole process, pitch some ideas. Okay, if they accepted the idea, pages in at this time, and then I did it and went through the process, and it was great fun. They rewrote me a little bit. I got mad.
You don't rewrite Superman. I am Superman. What are you talking about?
And they're like, son, no, you are. We are your executive producers. We're going to tell you. Oh, okay. But it was great. And John McNamara came in there and did some writing on it with me. And it was wonderful to see it all play out.
Yeah.
And that was my first experience doing that. And it played great, and it's fun. And I love when people bring it up now as a favorite episode. That makes me very, very happy and proud, and feel like I could share some of my thoughts about Christmas, my own personal thoughts about it, and through the characters. So if anybody likes it, I appreciate that.
There you go. There you go. Love that. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
So I know this was a long time ago, but you were on The Chase.
Do you think I can't remember that long ago? What are you saying?
He's got a super memory. He's got a super memory.
And that was The Chase, which has you have to have a super memory for
That's
that.
right.
With Seamus Deaver, yeah, he's phenomenally great. And the Beast, Mark Labette.
Yeah.
But going into it, did you think that you were going to be the smartest on your team? And did you think that your team was going to win?
Well, so it was myself, Seamus Dever, and Boris Kojo. And Boris Kojo is a polyglot.
Yes, he is.
Anybody else know what that means? No, you can't say it because you already know.
Okay, fine.
What's a polyglot? Anyone? It sounds like it's gross, right? You're a
It does sound a little
polyglot.
crazy. Yeah.
It means you can speak more than 3 languages.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he could. And Boris is too good looking for his own right. And born in Germany, yeah. So he speaks German, he speaks English, and I don't know what the other ones are, but super smart. And I knew that Seamus was real smart. I didn't realize that Seamus Dever was a genius when it comes to game show stuff. We started talking, and he was like, all I want to do is be on a trivia show. I was like, what? What is this? So we get in there, start going, and I never saw anybody in the prelim round hit every question. And I was like, whoa, all right. I'd already qualified to go in, I think. So I was like, you know what? If we team up, Boris got knocked out because he was swinging for the fence. And so he got knocked out. So at the finals, it was just myself and Seamus. Did I think I was going to be the smartest? I just thought I was going to hold my own, because when you go on those shows, it's different to watch it on your TV. You're like, oh, I know the answer to that. When you're there, the lights are on you, the clock is going. Did you hear the right thing? It just gets weird. I will say that the thing you should do is trust your first answer in your brain, because somehow that works on those shows with all that pressure. I thought I would do fine. But after watching the prelims, I was like, maybe I'll be the second smartest here. And it turned out we were a good team at the end, and we beat the Beast and won a bunch of money for our charities, which was
awesome.
great.
That's awesome. What is your favorite charity?
The Gary Sinise Foundation is one of my favorite charities, because I've never seen anybody do so much for our troops than Gary does, and it's the most amazing thing. He's gifting homes, smart homes for thank you for the question, by the way. For people who have been injured, and and their whole life has been changed, and they can't reach up to get to a stove, so they have a stove that comes down for them, or there's a wide enough hallways for the wheelchairs, or whether it's creating a lift to get them out of their chair into their bed. It just changes their whole life, and Gary's so committed to that. It's one of my favorite charities of all time. Anything with kids I love to do, because I'm a father and a devoted dad.
Yes, indeed.
Or anything that fights cancer. My dad's a cancer survivor. So those are all charities that I love to work with. Plus, I am a sworn sheriff's deputy in Frederick County, Virginia, and a reserve police officer in Pocatello, Idaho. So anything dealing with law enforcement or military, I try and do stuff for that. But as you see, when you care about a lot of different charities, you could work for a charity 24/7.
That's right.
365. So you kind of have to balance that out. But those are all things that I will fight for.
Dude, you're such a superhero.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
How do you feel about other Superman actors replacing you? Because you're my dad's favorite.
Hey.
All right. Well, first thing I'm going to say is your dad is very, very smart, and that's great taste. I never think about actors replacing me in that sense. I think it's a new incarnation of the character. So I certainly didn't feel like when I started playing Superman that I was replacing Christopher Reeve. He was my favorite Superman. And I actually borrowed from him the way he played Superman. Because for my character, Superman was the disguise, and Clark Kent was the character. So I just sort of played Superman the way Christopher Reeve played Superman, and I sort of stole from him there. He actually got injured while I was doing the show, and I remember I was kind of embarrassed that a press came to me and we were going, oh, this is what happened to Christopher Reeve. What do you think? And I was like, I'm not qualified to even say anything about this because I'm just an actor playing it. But I believe, how he reacted to that incredibly difficult disaster and accident proved that he indeed was the true spirit of Superman and what he did. I'd love to believe that I could be as gracious and humble and strong, but I don't know. I don't know how.
Well, I mean, you've dealt with your own injury that was life-changing and then became Superman. So I think you definitely fit that bill of simpatico with all the things that he represented.
I'd love to believe that, but again, I'm humbled by the way he did what he did, and it's incredible. But I never think of them as replacing. Now, I will talk about some of the other characters. Like, I think Brandon Routh, he did a great job. He looked a lot like Christopher Reeve. I think they tried to make that happen, but I didn't like the idea of Superman having someone else raise his son.
Dude, okay. No, hold on. We're going to chop that up because for real, that was one of my biggest gripes going into it.
Okay.
My man.
Boom.
Because it actually says, I'm sorry, we're going to pontificate right quick. It says a lot of bad things about Lois, too, by way of convincing another guy that that's his kid when she knows that it's actually Superman's. I'm like,
Yep.
why do you say that about Lois? That's so messed up. Why do we do this? Right?
And it should have been out in the open.
Right.
Maybe they could have kept it from the kid. I get that, but
Right.
and then him, standing outside, floating outside the window, staring at the
Creeper.
kid. Yeah. All right, so I was a little bothered by that,
Yeah,
but I don't
yeah.
blame Brandon for any of that because he did
course.
great, and Brandon's a friend, and I love Brandon. The Henry Cavill version of Superman, it's just, for me, that world is just too dark. Zack Snyder's a great filmmaker, obviously, great iconic shots and wonderful stuff, but it's a dark world. That's Batman's world, and we know about Batman. And I always say that if it was Batman versus Superman, it's going to be like a short because it'll be like Batman, Superman, bam, over, and the end. It didn't have to be 3 hours. My son and I went and watched it, and it was over, and I was like, what'd you think? He goes, that sucked. I hated that. And I was like, well, why? What about it? He goes, and this is a spoiler alert for those.
Yeah, yeah.
He's like, Superman died. And I'm like, that's my man.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, but so that was a very dark incarnation, and we'll see what happens next.
Okay.
I know the Batman is out, and that's even darker, right?
Yeah, yes, it is. You basically can't see it.
I heard that too. I've heard that. I've heard that you can't see
little
it.
glimmers of light from time to time. For 3 hours.
Hey, look, there he
It's
is.
cool.
No,
He's
he's
like,
not.
wait, is that it? No, it's Ricochet. That's fine. It's just a bat flying around. That's it. That's all it is. That's all it is.
And then Robert Pattinson.
He's like, I'm sad. Bats. I'm sorry. I'm going to get beat up for that one. Oh, my God.
He said it, not me.
I know.
Hi, my name is Ryan.
Ryan?
I watched your show when I was a kid, Lois and Clark. I was a
Thank
big
you for
fan.
telling me how old I am.
Yeah,
Thank you for that.
and I was a big fan of Smallville and Supergirl. I liked your role in all of them. My question is, when the CW did the crossovers with all the shows, was there ever talk of you reprising a role of Superman?
So during the crossover things, I'm a busy guy. Like, I'm doing a lot of different things all the time. And I remember they were asking about my availability for certain times. And obviously I was playing Jeremiah Danvers on the show, and that's Supergirl's and the other girl's father. And I just, they were talking about it, but they didn't specifically come in hard to go, listen, it's the crossover. We want you to be there. We got it. At least that never got to me. If they did, so I'm not aware of that happening. I've never seen the crossover episode. A lot of people like it, but I keep getting that question, and I don't recall them going like, we have to have you do this. And I don't know if they did them all. Were they all on screen together, or they were like different vignettes? How'd that work?
It was different versions of such things. So some of
Okay.
them were different, vignettes. Some of them were individuals. So it just
Were they together all at once, or no?
No.
not really.
They weren't
Yeah.
all together,
Yeah.
but separately.
Yeah, so they could have shot it separately if they'd wanted to. I don't know. So I don't recall being. I remember getting asked some questions about like, would you put the suit back on and do the thing and whatever. And I remember thinking like, if it was something that I liked, something that I believed was appropriate for it, that I wouldn't be against it. But listen, I still have ideas. Like Lois and Clark went 4 seasons. It was supposed to go a 5th season. Terry Hatcher got pregnant. I did not do it. Kidding.
What a caveat! Like, that's such a. It wasn't me, guys.
It wasn't me. No, she got married after the 1st season, and
Right.
John Tenney, her husband, wonderful. He was on the show as well. But no, and she was going to have a difficult pregnancy. And so what happened was we were picked up for the 5th season. I went off to go make a movie, and I was in Toronto making the movie, and I got a call from Tony Jonas, who was the head of Warner Brothers at the time, and he told me that she wasn't able to film, and they were going to just stop the show. At that point in time, I was kind of relieved because it was such a grind. I also wanted to do the 5th season, though, so I wanted to have some sort of a an ending of it,
Yeah.
know where we were going. And I was hoping they would have kids, kind of what Clark and Lois, or Lois and what is it now, Clark and Lois, Clark and Superman has now, or Lois and Superman, or whatever it is, Superman and Lois. What is it? Superman and Lois? There, I knew I'd find it eventually. I should watch it. I think Tyler Hoechlin's great, and I think he's a fantastic actor. He's very hairy to play Superman.
He is.
So
Very beardy.
he's very beardy.
That's also going to get me beat up. Oh,
You got a beard. I mean, you can be Superman. I don't know if you got the hairy chest. I can't tell. You got the time. Yes.
I'm sorry.
Confidence.
Yeah.
So I was hoping we would shoot another season, but I'd love to catch up 30 years later with Lois and Clark now and see where they are. I don't think Warner Brothers would want to do that, so I'm sort of devising another way to get that done, and we'll see if that works out. But I have confidence.
Oh, you should try pitching
Tweet that,
Superman and
yo.
Lois, like doing a crossover with Superman and Lois.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of our own incarnation, but
Like
that
as
could
a
happen.
backdoor way of getting in, and
Of
then
course.
that would
like
lead
that.
to something else.
Of course, our show's going to be bigger, so I don't want to get into it. But
What would you want to happen, or what would you want for your characters?
I'd always wanted to see, and I guess it's happening on Superman and Lois, I'd always wanted to see them have kids. Because I'll tell you this, as a parent, it's the most vulnerable thing I've ever been in my life. I've never cared so much about another individual, so much more than myself, that my son had a heart murmur when he was very young, and it's very common for that to happen, and it tends to be completely innocent, but at the time we didn't know. And I remember going through and finding that it was innocent. I remember having a lot of conversations with God about that. And then I was driving home, and just sort of it overwhelmed me, and I pulled over on the side of the road, and I just broke down in tears, so relieved that it didn't happen, just because I loved this kid so much. I didn't want him to go through that, and I wanted him to be able to live a full life. And I had another conversation with God where I said, look, I don't know that I can have any more kids because I can't be this vulnerable times 2 or 3 or 4,
Right.
because it's so difficult. And that's the beauty of life, but also it does make you vulnerable. So I think if Superman, who always had Lois, like he felt that way about Lois, he wasn't vulnerable, but it was her, and he would do anything to protect her. If they had kids and she felt that same thing, Lois Lane would always throw herself in trouble. And do exactly what you would hate for your child to do. I think it'd be really interesting to see how she would react as a parent and know what Superman had to go through for her all the time. See, like, I told you shouldn't go to that place to do that. This is why. Plus, it'd be really fun to create that world. I mean, what happens with a kid? Are they a Kryptonian human kid? Do they have powers? Do they not have powers? And you could relate that to life. You get your young teenagers, and you teenagers in here know who you are. Then they get to that age where they start to try to press. Yes, you young lady. They start to press and start to do things, and the parents are like, hey, you can't do that. I can do whatever I want to. That sort of thing. What happens if that kid has some nascent superpowers too, So I kind of, in my brain, because there's always that iconic start to a Superman movie where it's like, someone's on a plane. The plane is cruising along. Okay, we'll be descending into Metropolis in this many minutes, blah, blah. Also, oh, no, the plane, the something wrong with the engine's gone. So whatever, and Superman comes over and grabs it. And then, like, you see Superman grabbing the thing, and then another Superman flies up and sees it, and he looks over and he said, I told you not to do this. Get your ass home. That kind of a thing. I was like, that kind of stuff. Exactly. You get home right now. Oh, he's out there being Superman again. You can't do that. I don't know what they're doing on Superman and Lois, but that kind of stuff is fun to me. And maybe there's a way to do it without them being Superman and Lois, but maybe they are. Who knows? But I'd love to visit up with them and see them as parents. I'd love to see where their love story has gone. I'd love to see how their lives have gone. And hopefully, I'm all about hope and positivity, and I'm an optimist, so I'd love to see it have that in it with some of the stuff that's going on in the world these days too, so that I can make some commentary on that. But I think it'd be really interesting. And Terry and I are still quite close and friendly, and we went and did we've done 3 Comic-Cons together. We did one in Australia. I guess we did 3 in Australia, but it was one trip. Did one in New York City, and then we did one in the UK. And we're still friendly. We talk all the time, and she's open to doing something like that. I'm open to it, so it'd be really fun to revisit somehow.
I like that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. We'll see if we can get it done. It'll take some doing.
Tweet it, people.
Tweet it.
That's the way you
Yes.
get that done. Hello.
Hi, I'm Don.
Hi, Don. How are you, sir?
I'm good.
You're very Lex Luthor right now. You know that, right?
I didn't want to bring
I mean,
it up, so I'm glad you did.
I'm about to hide right here.
Yeah, I'm like, yo, if he's got kryptonite, I got you, man. I got you.
First, I wanted to thank you for being part of the movie God Is Not Dead.
Oh, thank you, sir.
I wish Hollywood would make more movies along those lines. But my question is about your appearance on Frasier. I know you played Santa Claus.
Yes.
That's my favorite show on TV. Just wondered how you enjoyed working with Perry Gilpin in the cast.
Perry Gilpin's great. I did another movie with her called Crossroads, A Story of Forgiveness. She's a wonderful, wonderful person. You know, Frasier, that show was such a juggernaut, and they were so good. We rehearsed that whole week, and Kelsey Grammer wasn't there. He was off doing some other thing, because he's Kelsey Grammer, and he played Frasier, which is the longest-running character in television history.
Right.
He came in the day of the taping. I had never seen him do. My stuff wasn't with him anyway. But to watch him come in after not doing anything and nail everything, boom, I was like, that's a reason he's in Frasier. Yeah, that's it. I was like, wow, incredible. So wonderful with the audience because it's a live audience show. Perry Gilpin was funny. The concept was that she's falling, like someone's playing the Superman in the when she was doing her charity work was in the mall Santa, and that was me. And she dug me for that whole thing. She was talking about Santa all the time to her friends. The guy comes in, he's doing Santa. It's so cool. I feel like I'm really attracted to him. And then I meet her in I run into her in a coffee shop, and she's with her girlfriends, and I'm like, hey, how are you, and everything. She's like, oh, okay, I'm good, yeah. And I had this stupid laugh. Right, and there was a stupid laugh. It wasn't the ho ho ho, which I did as Santa Claus. It was kind of this high pitched like hee 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 thing, and that just did her in right there. Right, that's the character. So then, we were talking, and then she got kind of cold to me, whatever. And the other girlfriends noticed as I walked away. They're like, yeah, "That's the Santa Claus, all right." And she's like, "I don't." I'm like, what are you talking about? He's a stockbroker. He's this, blah, 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 and all the things you want to hear. And she's like, I don't know. His laugh seemed a little, it's not as full as when he's doing, when he's there with the kids and he's ho, ho, ho. And then the girl goes, oh, you have a thing for Santa Claus. That's what it is. And she's like, no, I don't know. Yes, I do. She's like, no, I don't. She's like, you're a ho, ho, ho. I mean, that's such brilliant writing, and stuff was so funny. It was great. So it was wonderful to be on that show, especially to see how well run it was and see how great they all were. And it was just fun. It was a great, fun bit, and I enjoyed doing that. And that's one of the things that's fun as an actor is I've guest starred on CSI and Criminal Minds and all these different things. It's great to get on those sets and sort of be the new guy and have to stretch a little bit and to fit in and see how they all work. It's just more experience as time goes on. My son was watching my Criminal Minds last night. He texted me. He's like, I'm watching you in Criminal Minds. I'm like, you never watch anything I do. What's wrong with you?
You're not here.
Yeah.
I'm doing this now.
Exactly. You know what it was? He was sitting with a couple girls who were watching CSI, and he was like, hey, that's my dad.
And they're like,
no. What?
And he's like, yes, it is.
Yes, it is. And I meanwhile, CSI. So no, it was Criminal Minds. So I was like killing my friends so I could gamble better. I was like, your dad's kind of twisted. Well, that goes back to God's Not Dead. So my son went to a Christian high school. And they all watched the film, so they're all watching the film. And I knew all the kids. I was around them. I coached. I was just always around the kids, and so they all knew me as Christopher's dad or whatever. And they're watching God's Not Dead, and my girlfriend tells me she has cancer, and I'm like, well, that doesn't work for me. Yeah. And he was like, and I break up with her and stuff. He's like, people are like, dude, your dad's kind of a jerk. It's like, that's not, he's just acting.
Yeah, he's acting, guys. Come on.
He's acting pretty well. I think it's pretty much a jerk.
You believing him. Like, that's cool.
It's like, no, your dad's a jerk. That's it. But that's fun. But that movie was great. And then what I loved about that is when you're making faith-based films, and I make a lot of them I do just because they're real small and they would never get made otherwise. So I'll go and do a day. They're tiny. They're made for nothing. A friend of mine makes these films, and I'll go do it I'll give him a couple days here and there to do it just so the film gets made and gets some viewership to it. It's not something I'm staking my career on. I'm not getting paid to do them, but I believe in the idea of he's wanted to change the culture and get those stories out. And everybody has their own story, and everybody's story is very compelling. You may not think your story is, but all the things and ups and downs you go through, it's compelling. And sometimes we get lost in these big giant Marvel franchise movies. I'm not picking on Marvel because I'm DC, but
maybe.
But you don't. Sometimes you don't care about the characters so much. You don't get involved and invested because you're not telling. There's too much going on. Everything's blowing up. Everything's happening. And you're not really caring about the characters. And it all comes down to character. So I love to do those kind of films and tell those stories. In God's Not Dead, what was particularly effective, I think, about that movie is that if you're watching a faith-based movie and they're preaching to you, you get preached to every Sunday in church. And people don't, it kind of falls on deaf ears. But when you do it subtly and you talk about things that tend to be the same beliefs and ideas, and you get there in a different way, I think it's much more effective. And Harold Kronk did a great job as directing that one. I haven't seen the other ones afterwards, but I heard they weren't as good.
You know, I got to give you your props on that. It doesn't matter where, politically somebody stands or, religiously somebody stands. The idea of your conviction leading your profession is rather refreshing, right? Because we see a lot of times that people are money motivated or fame motivated, and you're like, this is me. I am this person. This is what I want people to see. This is who I am, and you project that very, very well. Obviously, you've had some difficulties with other people embracing that. But for you, this is still absolutely your path, yeah?
Oh, 100%. Listen, and it's a weird time now because, the cancel culture and the weird things get out there.
Right?
I despise cancel culture. I don't think we all make mistakes and we all say things maybe we shouldn't say. And if social media had been around when I was in college, holy smokes! I mean, I feel for the younger generation coming up through this. Especially young women. I mean, one of the things I work on as a police officer is crimes against children. In fact, our foundation is the Crimes Against Children Foundation. And the social media and the access that people have, whether they're playing video games online or they're just online surfing the web or whatever it is, these bad guys and girls have access to your kids in your house in a way, whether it's playing Xbox. I mean, they have it every way they can do it, and they're pretty ingenious in what they do. And so, got to pay attention to that a lot as parents, and as an officer, that's what we deal with. I mean, it's a weird thing, but like we've got the Internet Crimes ICAC at each department I work. There's an Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, which I work with all the time, and these guys, and they're men. These are all men, our officers that are on the two divisions that I'm on. We always have a female officer as well, ready to go. But they're like, I'm dating 6 people right now, and one of them's and the people that they're quote dating, and they're dating them they're like 12-year-old. This person's persona is a 12-year-old boy. This person's persona is a 15-year-old girl, or whatever it happens to be. And they're like, but the people that are talking to them, and because we'll go bust them. They're a PE coach at a high school. They're a science teacher. They're someone who works at the bank. They're people you wouldn't expect. So it's terrifying for the young people growing up. But that access. But even in your own personal life, anything you post online, anything you say, any party you might have gone to, or anything stupid thing you say, unfortunately affects so many people. And I think we have to be able to have some ability to give some grace to people who've made some mistakes and not be so quick to cancel people with whom you disagree, and be able to have the conversation. Whenever people want to shut down conversation, I have a problem with that.
Yep.
I think the answer to that is more conversation, not less. And so whenever there's a situation, there was just a thing at Yale Law School where all these Yale law students they were screaming at people at a free speech conference, stopping them from speaking. I'm like, you're literally doing the opposite and let people talk, and then beat them with points. I mean, if I have a point of view and you and I disagree, and then we start talking about it, and your point of view is better than mine, guess what?
Your mind has changed.
I've learned, and I'll change what I was thinking, and because it makes more sense. So I wish we were doing more of that. And hopefully I think the pendulum swings, and I think that's going to swing back around, and we'll get back to that place. I hope. We'll see.
Bit of honesty, that's the key.
I think it really is.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate, but I mean, also, what's so weird now is something that happens, and everyone's like, oh, it's so violent now. The world is, I'm a guy studied history. There was some violent stuff going on in history that you can't even imagine. It's just that if something happens in Ukraine today, it's in our bedrooms right now.
See it.
And you see it all happening. And then Australia, something happens, you see it right now. And it feels like the world is smaller. And of course, in the news, it's always, if it bleeds, it leads. And so you hear all these bad things. And again, I'm a total optimist, so I like to believe that the good will come out in the end, and the good will prevail. Maybe that's naive, but that's the way I'm going down.
No. I mean, that just speaks to your Superman, because that's his goal, right?
It is.
To inspire all of us to reach that level of optimism. Yes.
Hey, how you doing? So, have you thought about working with Kirk Cameron?
I respect Kirk quite a bit. He's done some great stuff. I mean, I loved him back. What was the
Growing Pains.
Growing Pains.
Yeah.
He was great in that as well. And then as a man, he's done a heck of a job. If he called me and said, "Hey, we're doing this here. I've got something here," I would work with him in a heartbeat. But never had a specific reason to sit down and do anything. No project. Tell him to call me.
Yeah, I was going to say, tweet that.
Well,
make it happen.
It just in our business, it depends. And I would work again with Kirk in a heartbeat. And I'd work with someone who I totally disagreed with politically as well. I'd go work with Rob Reiner in a heartbeat. Great filmmaker. I've met with him more recently, and there was a time where he and I, first time I met Rob Reiner was we were both addressing the Democratic Governors Convention. And people go, "That's an odd place for you, Dean." But no, it wasn't, because I'm wide open. I voted Democrat and Republican. I voted I like policies. I'm not in the cult of personality so much as I am policies and what someone's putting forth. Well, because those affect you, you know. So if Kirk had a project and it was right for me to do, I'd be there in a heartbeat.
That'd be awesome.
Yes, sir.
Very much so. Hello.
Hi. So I'm not even sure that I really have a question. I just wanted to say a couple of things. So God's Not Dead, like, I love that movie. And, like, one of my favorite scenes is, like, when your mother with dementia, you
yes.
visit her, and she puts you in your place and, like, calls you out. Like, I just love that scene. The other thing is, so this is going to date me and you, but the first time I ever saw you was 90210.
Hey.
Brenda's boyfriend.
And Reek.
I remember
That's right.
you were, like, bonding with Mr. Walsh, like,
Yeah, well-
hardcore, right? And everybody was, like, hating you. And me and my friends, we were like, he's the perfect boyfriend. Like, why does everybody hate him? Like, we just loved you. And, like ever since then, like, I've always, like, known who you were and kind of, like, followed your career. So it goes all the way back to 90210.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I just did a podcast with Jenny Garth about 90210. So they did their thing. Jenny's a lovely, lovely girl. And so we did a podcast about that. I didn't know which season it was when I shot. I couldn't remember, but apparently it was the third season. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about that. And so what originally had happened is my arc was supposed to be 3 episodes in Paris. And I thought, I'm going to Paris. No.
Yeah.
We were at Universal Studios. I was like, what? We were walking the back garden somewhere. This isn't Paris. This is Burbank. This is, so I was away from everybody. I wasn't there doing it. Then they asked me to come back and do another episode where I go back to UCLA, and I run into her and realize that she's been lying to me the whole time. She's not Brenda Dubois with that Parisian accent, which Shannon hated doing. But she, you know, and she tells me the truth. And then as originally pitched to me and told me, then I go, that you're not the woman I thought you were, and I break up with her. Well, Shannon didn't want that. She's like, you can't, a guest star can't come in here and break up with me. That's not right with it. So they turned me into that dork. They turned me into the dork singing with Mr. Walsh. And I don't sing. So when I saw this script, and I was like, oh, you know, in a movie, we do a thing where we dolly in at you and pull a focus out at the same time. It makes you go like, that was really what I felt like. I was like, oh my gosh. And then I had to sing, which my brother still teases me mercilessly about. But as an actor, you like, that's what I got to do. So I did that, and it was horrific, and I hated me. But thank you for thinking he was a good guy. He was a good guy, but he was Mr. Walsh. Yeah. And then God's Not Dead. I'll tell a little quick story about that. So that actress was wonderful. So, you know, you're getting ready, you rehearse a scene. She had a monologue, so it kind of wouldn't have to go through her words so much. Cameras are set, we're staged. We go through the whole thing, and then she does her bit. Because my mother, the character of my mother in that film, was always extremely religious, and my character wasn't. And he was saying to her, if you haven't seen the film, you know, you're the nicest, most wonderful person I know, and look at you, look at your life, look at you become. So don't give me that baloney, you know. And then she goes into a speech about how the devil allows you to do this, and it's the most clear. She suddenly becomes completely clear and says this incredible stuff. And the scene goes through. She does her whole bit, and it's just dead silent, and cut. She's like, I don't know. Was that it? And we're all like this. And she goes, was that okay? And everyone's like, oh my gosh.
I was still in the moment.
Yeah,
You're like,
all of us. I couldn't believe it. And she was unsure that she had done a good job, or like, you know, and we were just like, let's go home. We're done. And that's my favorite scene in the movie. I mean, it was amazing. So, love it. But then, you know, as an actor, She was like, that wasn't very good. Did I do that right? We were like,
like,
oh,
I mean,
don't do it again.
We can.
Don't
Right.
ever do it again.
Right.
She did it again, by the
We
way.
got time for one more?
Yes, sir.
So I know that we talked about it earlier when we were at your table about how you are making and have made films with Kevin Sorbo.
Mm-hmm.
I think that more of us in this room should really reach out to Kirk Cameron, because I believe that the three of you, Kevin Sorbo, Kirk Cameron, and yourself, would make the most amazing faith-based film ever.
Well, that would be fun.
I feel like there's a production company in
Right?
your names, right?
I'm just like,
Kevin, Kirk, and Cain. Like make that
right?
work.
It's like, 'cause I've
It's
worked with
KKC.
Kevin. CKK.
CKK.
Yeah, there we go.
Right?
Okay, I'm with you.
Yes.
I like
That would be fun. Again, I'm wide open to work with Kirk and Heartbeat. I love Kevin. He's great. We'll get a chance to do some fun things together, I think. Hopefully, for me, Little Angels coming out, I certainly will have opportunity to direct more and a larger scale, which is nice, larger budget things, and that'll be fun. I'll tell you one funny story about Kevin Sorbo, if you haven't heard this story before. The last two actors down to Superman were myself and Kevin Sorbo.
what?
So that was it, yeah. And he was blonde, so I was like, I got this. I got this. You can have blonde
Leaned over, he's like, why don't you
Superman.
be Hercules or
Yeah,
something?
exactly. Your long hair, Hercules body, get out of here. But it was funny because I heard his audition, and I didn't want to. You don't want to hear your competitor's audition. You're like, no. But I heard it, and it kind of sounded angry and I was like, whoa, that's a whole different direction than me. And I had 2 scenes I had to do for the network audition, and a third scene just in case. Well, I did my 2 scenes, and I was very happy with how I did. I was like, booyah, this is over. I got this. And I heard his by accident. Then we're sitting around. It's nerve-wracking. It's a horrible experience. And then they come out. They're like, Dean, they'd like to see that third scene from you now. And I was like, oh, I screwed up. I didn't know what I did and whatever. And the funny thing is that third scene was me with my dad, and a scene about not fitting in, not feeling good about. And I was like, I'm right there, right now. Let's just go do this. And I went and did that, and then I ended up getting the job, which was lovely. But I was also terrified because I didn't know if I could do it. I didn't know what it would look like to put on a suit and flying around. Would people buy me as Superman? And so it's a terrifying thing. Fortunately, it turned out real well. But it was one of those things. You're like, okay, I got the job. And this is the thing in life. And I try to tell people about this in life lessons. I look back at my life at all the times where I've achieved the most. And you look at that moment before you go there, and you're like, it seems like so much. It's almost impossible. I don't know if I can do that. Everybody who ever achieves anything like that has that moment. And it's the ability to go past that and take on more than you think you can manage that will eventually help you find your success. So for anybody wondering, that's the thing to do. Take it all on, do it, and you will find that success.
And this is why he was Superman. Y'all felt that
Boom.
right there.
It's funny that you brought that up about
Yes.
you and him that went out for that, because we were sitting there when I was working with Kevin Sorbo, and he actually told me about that story that you actually beat him out of that part. So
He told the truth?
He did.
Yes.
There it is.
Well, you always hear the stories. Everybody's like, oh, my friend was like the other person, the third person up for it. I'm like, there was no third person.
There was no third person.
It was me and Kevin.
That was it.
And he was blonde, and it was over.
He did have the length. That's all right.
When they started casting for Hercules, I should have just shown up. What's up, man? Yeah.
She would have shown up wearing like a Superman shirt, and he was like, "That's not even funny."
No, I want Hercules too. I want Hercules too.
Give it all
Look at my blonde hair.
Dean, thank you so very much for your time and energy. Y'all make some noise for Dean Cain.
Thank you all.
Appreciate you always, man. Always.
Thank you all, and I'll see you out there.
Hi, this is Maisie Richardson-Sellers, and you are watching Fandom Spotlight. Be a legend and hit that like button, and most importantly, have fun and follow your fandom.